And I'm asking, is it time to privatise the NHS to avoid future strikes? Current NHS waiting lists are out of control, and we are seeing continued industrial action over the pay row in the health service. There are some obvious pros and cons to privatising the NHS, but is it basically an outdated model? So for the great British debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time to simply privatise it to avoid future strikes, if that will even do that? Joining me now is my panel, Lizzie Cundy, broadcaster and columnist, and also Sam Dowler, political commentator. Right, let's start with you, Lizzie. Is it time? Is it time? They want more money. 35% is what the junior doctors...
and they're not going to get that. They've been offered 6%. They're not going to get that. And don't forget what the NHS costs us as taxpayers. It's 10% of our actual taxes. 180 billion this year went into the NHS. And this is more than anywhere in Europe. And do you know what? The outcomes aren't good here for health. If you're going to get cancer, you'd rather get cancer in France than here. And that's the sad statistics of this. And it suggests that major changes are needed. I mean, look at the backlog, the disorganisation, the management. I mean, spending all that money on diversity managers.
Net zero.
I mean, and in my own local hospital, that 45k for just the chaplain. This totally needs a review.
People die in hospitals. You need a chaplain. At least that's the one you can
get. But then you can have a local one for the priest. You don't need to actually pay 45,000 for a chaplain. I'm just talking honestly, these strikes, ultimately, we are going to lose lives, and this is the frightening thing, and we need to have a total review of the NHS. I'm very sorry, it's outdated. It used to be in the jewel of the crown. You know, the whole world used to envy it. Not now.
No, they're laughing. And, I mean, look, a lot of people compare it to, say, in Australia or whatever. Look, Australia is a privatised model, so you're going to get better outcomes. So it's no comparison at all. Sam?
Well, I mean, like, wasn't it 250 or 350 million per week that we were going to get to the NHS from leaving the EU, wasn't it? Isn't that what Boris told us?
What's your point?
Well, that hasn't happened, has it? So,
well, I don't know. It might have done. Well,
that's $1 billion a month extra to the NHS.
No, hang on, wait. I don't know whether it has or hasn't happened. It might have done. That was some of the money that we were paying the EU.
Yes,
with regard to it. We're not paying that, so it may.
But we're in a scenario whereby the NHS is an institution, and we should be really proud of it. I mean, it's something that
not at the moment.
Not at the moment. No, but it's 75 years old. We've done. You know, no one who's 75 years old is like, you know, still tickety-boo. Like they need some work. Look
at the run-down hospital. My friend was in a...
Let him finish.
Yes, fine, of course, but you know, my father was seen to by the NHS during the pandemic, and it was fantastic. I think they do, and everybody will say that they do a fantastic job, because on the front line, but on the front line, most people would say they had great service today.
No, I don't know.
Blah, blah.
I think it's a postcode lottery. It really is.
It is.
If you end up in a good NHS trust, then you're lucky. If it's a bad one, then you're in trouble.
Okay, that's fine, but it's clear they need more money. They need restructuring.
No money. It's not going into the right places.
Sadly, stop saying about the diversity, because that is barely any money at all goes into diversity training.
It's half a billion. So it's about 500 million. So it's $500 million at least going for diversity.
Goes into diversity training.
That's too much. Okay,
and then there's too much.
And then there's also the net zero stuff as well. So you know, this is waste, and then there's a huge sort of over-bloated bureaucracy at the top of it as well. So people who have no experience with patient care whatsoever, dishing out orders, and the procurement as well. They're not taking advantage of economies of scale because they're individual trusts. So there's a lot going wrong.
But also because of Brexit, we're losing nurses to the EU, which we would have had before.
Please stop blaming Brexit.
I'm not blaming for everything. I'm saying it has had an impact on the NHS. It's a catalogue effect of from Brexit and then the pandemic, and now this is where we are now.
We need so many more people. The population is growing. Migrants. It's such a strain.
It's hardly growing through migrants, is it?
I'm sorry, but they're getting national health care.
It's hardly a percentage of the national population.
We need to reboot it, to have a total review
I agree with that, but privatisation is not the answer.
Stop saying it's tickety-boo.
I didn't say it was
Wait. Tickety-boo. Nobody says that anymore. Don't say it again. Don't say it again on my show.
Sam said it.
That's my private school education.
Tickety-boo.
Tickety-boo.
Tickety-boo, darling, tickety-boo. No, listen, seriously,
you in a minute.
It's horrible, it's horrible. No, but let's be honest here. The NHS, right, it's a sinking ship. You can't keep putting more money into a sinking ship and expect it to suddenly start floating. There's a problem with it, and this is a lack of accountability. If you have a private system or some sort of... I would say scrap the national insurance. I would say people shouldn't pay that, or they should pay a much smaller percentage. And then at 18, you should be forced to have to pay some sort of insurance, which would give you a choice of private sector healthcare. When you get over 60 or whatever, then the money that you put in when you were younger or whatever goes in to help you out later on as well. But I say that we should actually have something like that, because then they're accountable. They care more about your outcome, because otherwise they get sued. At the NHS, it's answering him or this or that. They move you around and say, oh, go over there, go over there, go over there. By the time they actually get to see you, they want you to die,
Exactly.
because then it's quick cheap.
But there's no point throwing extra, more money at the NHS. It needs major reform.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, you have American friends and I have American friends, and when they look at our system, they cannot believe how much better it is than their own system.
Look at what France is doing at the minute. Look at what France is doing.
You have no insurance, it ruins your life if you get anything wrong with you at all.
Yeah, but you get insurance, so that's what you do.
What if you don't?
And if you work out the amount of money that it costs you, so for me, the amount I'm paying, if I pay private medical cover, the amount that comes out of my income to go for the NHS is way more than any private medical cover. And most people on average are paying at least £3,000 per head for it, and that's more expensive than any private medical cover.
And I think we should look at how France are doing it. They know, and they've got much better results than us. And it's easier to get an appointment with the Pope than it is to get a hospital appointment.
But it was 30 seconds.
Let's ask the viewers, because the show's nothing without them. Let's welcome our great British voices. Their opportunity to be on board and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. I've got 4 of you. I'm going to start with Mike Donovan. He's there in Oxfordshire. Mike, what do you think? Is it time to privatise it, change the model?
I think if we look at the Big Bang created under Thatcher and the utilities and energy companies, is privatisation the answer? No, I think you've got to remember that the NHS was a fantastic organisation, as we say, a pride of Great Britain, until something changed. And that was probably 30 years ago. And the best way to find out is to go in and ask anecdotal. And it was interesting during lockdown, I asked a lady, what's the difference between now and when you first joined? And she was in the haematology department. She said, we have now 8 managers instead of 1. Well, you multiply. I mean, I have to say, privatisation has been a disaster with foreign stakeholders and in our energy companies, our utility companies. But what we need is a proper review. Yeah, well, I agree with that.
But if you think energy, you can't choose where you get your water from or this or that, but you can choose your medical care and where you get it from. Amanda Hindley.
Hi. Sadly, I do think it's time to privatise the NHS. What used to be a great British institution is now basically in the toilet. And it is a lottery, so we are dealing with people's lives. And unfortunately, I think if we did introduce like an insurance scheme from 18, I agree with you, I think it would make people more accountable for their own health as well. So people will be actually taking care of themselves because they know they don't want to have to spend the money to be in hospital. So there should really be premiums or penalties for people that don't look after their own health.
God, Amanda, who did your eyes? I want to do mine like that. They're like big. And
I did.
They look fabulous. Give me the tip.
Thank you very much.
Right, let's go to Miranda Richardson. Not the Miranda Richardson, but Miranda Richardson. She's there in Northamptonshire. Miranda.
Good afternoon, Nana. I'm kind of with Lizzie in the fact that it needs a massive reform, to be honest. Both my parents worked in the NHS their entire lives, and you know, they will tell you such horror stories of seeing the changes as it's gone on. And what the biggest issue we also have to think about, and Amanda kind of touched on that, is making us accountable as well for what we do and why we pop into the A&E department. And you can kind of look that so many people don't go and get registered. Then we've got an issue with the GP surgeries, not having enough of them, the constant building and developing of areas, massive housing estates, no medical backup, but then we don't have the staff, we don't have the doctors. But what you do then have is back to the first person with 8 managers.
Well, exactly.
With the priority wrong, and it needs a reform. But a proper reform, not bringing in 30 or 40 more high-paid level consultants to also then cost us another fortune while they do the reform.
Right, let's get Alan McNeely, and you've got 30 seconds, because Miranda talked all over like about 20 seconds of yours. Go on, Alan, hurry up. You're losing time.
I think the concept of healthcare from cradle to the grave was a great concept. It's a sign of a truly advanced society. But the NHS as it stands is a complete shambles, and it does need major reform. It needs major reform in procurement. They're wasting money left, right, and centre. All of these ridiculous posts that are in it, the diversity managers and the net zero managers and the multiple managers, they all need to go. So what they need to do is decide, what can we do? What are our priorities in human health? Can we actually meet those and not do the things that are cosmetic, if you want, Nana? Yeah. So major reform and a complete cull of all the unnecessary people that are in it.
A reform and a cull, I think, changed the whole thing. I think privatised levels of it, and I think they need to do something. Listen, thank you so much. My great British voice is fabulous. Michael in Oxfordshire. I've got the lovely Amanda in Kent, Miranda in Northamptonshire, and Alan McNeely in Grimsby. Thank you.